Hi
We're off.
there, welcome to Outdoor Gear Chat. We
We're-
are off, we're off. Episode 72. This is the third in our series of, no, sorry, it's 71.
It is 71.
Should start again. Oh, let's plough on regardless. It's on the third part of our Everest specials celebrating the 50th anniversary of the summiting of Everest. I'm joined as always by Cathy. Hello.
Hi Wayne, I'm Cathy and I'm the co-owner and director of the Joe Brown shops in Snowdonia and the Climbers shop in Ambleside, and we have a long tradition of working with Community Action Nepal, which is a charity founded by Doug. So it's brilliant to be able to join them in celebrating this 50th anniversary for as Doug's being the first Briton, one of the first Britons to stand on the summit of Everest. And we've put together this series to look at how kit and also the sport of mountaineering has evolved and how kit has been able to help along that path. So we're talking to some really quite diverse people, which is fantastic. And today we are joined by the master of the small remote expedition, and Mick has carefully balanced family life and a full-time job at the tax office throughout his career.
Sorry, I had to do that. Mick. Comedy, I'm sure you're
I'm used to that, Wayne.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, sorry.
But you didn't fancy settling down in retirement, Mick, obviously, because you became one of the pioneering pensioners in your selection of latest talks. And climbing remote peaks, often that a Westerner has never even seen, let alone been near and attempted. So you've got many first ascents to your name. I can't possibly list them all off, but it does mean that you've been using technical clothing and equipment throughout your climbing year, which somehow, and I suspect this is as much as a surprise to you, has spanned 50 years.
Remarkably, yes. I must be very old.
Just experienced, surely.
Oh yeah, that's better. That's better.
So we're going to kind of start by going back to the 1970s and an era when you discovered that crampons and flares were a bad combination for pioneering
Who'd have thought?
the niche sport of chalk climbing. And I wonder if you can tell us how this discovery came about, and was it more from a safety point of view or more to do with an unexpected appearance on BBC television?
It was more to do with practicalities, really. I mean, big flares, loons were very much in fashion back in the 1970s.
Yeah.
And when they became a bit scruffy for the disco action, I would relegate them to climbing. And so we'd use them climbing down at Dover. But of course, the trouble is the sharp crampon points and lots of fabric flapping around your feet. It really doesn't work that well. But that's okay. We just tuck them into our socks, and that was right. It looks silly.
That's the look of champions right there.
Brilliant, yeah, isn't it just?
Yeah, it didn't stop us getting up.
But it got you on telly.
Oh, well, got us semi-arrested.
Notoriously.
I like that, semi-arrested.
Semi-arrested.
And with the denim flares as well, Mick. So yeah, really the pinnacle of uncomfortableness.
Various different sorts. I believe the ones that featured on the news after we climbed at Dover were denim flares. Yes.
Yeah.
But I had a nice pair of red loons that were sort of cotton fabric as well. And they were quite fetching little numbers.
Brilliant. So again, the pinnacle of technical fabric is it back to yeah.
That's what you need at Dover. Yeah.
straight off the cliff and into the disco, or vice versa. Yeah, like you're saying, yeah.
So we'll move on to slightly more serious expeditions.
I'm not sure how we can. Yeah.
And in 1984, you headed out to Pakistan on, I'm going to probably not say this correctly, Bojhadur expedition. And where you explained you saw no sense in seeing a holiday degenerate into a logistical nightmare. And so you adopted an alpine style, lightweight approach to the mountain, which really probably at the time was quite different to a lot of the major expeditions and that kind of big line of porters and equipment leading into the mountain and taking a long time, and certainly something quite new for a 7,000 meter peak. And was this sort of new approach also due to sort of time limitations, and were there any sort of downsides that you found on that trip?
Well, the reason for it was a combination of all sorts of things, really. I mean, firstly, we were dead lucky. We're a dead lucky generation in that, up until perhaps the 1970s, it was so expensive and took so long to get out to climb a Himalayan peak that it really wasn't practical in your average person's annual holidays. And so we were almost, I suppose, the first generation that were able to go as a small group. And the reason that we climbed alpine style was twofold in a way. Firstly, that's the way we'd always climbed in the Alps. That's what we were used to. We were climbing as a small group, and that was the attractive and only way of climbing to us. And also, hammering a mountain into submission with a huge expedition with porters and camps and spending most of your time slogging away up fixed ropes was really not my idea of climbing at all. And so it was a matter of really it being the most enjoyable way of doing things for us. And I think it's probably fair to say we felt that was the only fair way to climb mountains, was to climb them alpine style. It's the way we'd always done it, we'd always enjoyed it. And at the end of the day, we're going there to enjoy ourselves.
It is a holiday at the end of the day, isn't it?
It is.
Although I think your definition of holidays, going through your books, you've written 3 really, really good books. I've really enjoyed rereading them, and they do seem to be a collection of nightmarish bivvy, followed by nightmarish bivvy, followed by even more nightmarish bivvy, which we'll get onto in a little while. But
no, Cathy. They are a record of my enjoyable climbs, is a better way to put it. With the occasional uncomfortable night.
Brilliant.
No, I was reading different books, clearly.
Yeah.
And quite seriously, those uncomfortable nights, they're uncomfortable at the time, but I mean, they're great memories.
On reflection, it doesn't seem as bad.
We still chat about them over beers now, so many, many years later.
Yeah.
So, they're not all bad.
Was that Pakistan trip the one where one of you ended up with the stove on one level of bivvy and the other ended up with the pan on the other level of bivvy?
That is good of you to remind me of that, Cathy. Yes, thank you. Yes, Victor Saunders, who's still my main climbing partner at the moment. The remarkable 75-year-old Mr. Saunders, who is still keen to climb technical routes. He had moved faster than me, and he was carrying the stove, and it got dark or afternoon slush, and he ended up bivouacked on one rock sticking out of an ice slope, and I was spending the night on a different rock. And he had all the pans, but I had the stove, and so there was a challenge on how to actually use the stove to actually melt some water, because I was really thirsty. And I can confirm that using your fiberglass helmet is not really a good idea. So it did get singed a bit, and the water was a bit sort of greasy and not very nice, but it was wet, and I survived the night, so all was well.
It did the trick. Oh my god!
Another rich memory.
Yeah. Did the helmet survive? Is it there as a memento somewhere in the storeroom?
Sadly, I don't have it anymore, but it did survive. Yes, I carried on using it.
Did you really?
Oh yeah. I didn't. It didn't destroy the helmet. It just made it a bit black and sooty.
Oh my goodness. So many questions again. Yeah. It's just where to start with all that, isn't it? But yeah.
Yeah, Victor found it very funny. Yeah,
I can well imagine.
So that we did a climb at Gogarth, which he insisted on calling Helmet Boiler after this incident, so that he could look at his guidebook and remember it and laugh at me forevermore.
Fondly, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That 84 trip, I know you write about it not being quite as successful as you hoped, because you were pipped to the summit by another group, weren't you?
Well, we weren't just pipped to the summit. The Hiroshima Walking Club walked extremely strongly to the summit, using fixed ropes so as to it all the way. And the supposedly and technically competent North London Mountaineering Club team ground to a rather unspectacular halt. So, yeah, I think it's a bit unfair to say that they pipped us at the post. We didn't even get to the post.
But
it was a good introduction. It was
excellent.
My first proper Himalayan trip, and it was a steep learning curve, let's say.
It's interesting what you're saying about back to the lucky point and the timing where you did this as well. Though we were talking to Mike earlier on in the second of this series, and he was talking about how the end of the Second World War sort of opened it up to to a different class, I suppose, to more working class, or because climbing was an upper class thing before, and I guess where in my head what you're talking about is almost an extension of that as well. Is it's the world became more accessible in sort of late 70s, early 80s, to mean, like you say, you weren't having to take 3 months to go and travel to the other side of the world to do something. It could be done in a relatively short time scale, or a comparatively short time scale. Would that be right? Is it, was it how long were you spending over there? Sorry.
That was completely correct. And also the cost had come down to a level that the average person could realistically save up the money. So I do remember my first greater range trip was 1982 to Peru, and the airfare was 400 and something pounds, which was a lot, but it was doable.
Yeah.
And you look at it now, I don't know what the fare is now, but it's not massively more than that now. So I think the greater ranges have become more and more accessible, cost-wise, and from the point of view of accessibility when you get there, with roads being forced further and further into the mountains. Those early expeditions to some mountains, they were taking sort of 10, 15 days to walk in from the roadhead to their base camp.
Yeah.
And usually now we're talking about 2 or 3 days at the most, because we can just fly to an airstrip somewhere, and from there, get porters for 2 or 3 days, and you're at base camp.
Yeah, flights are 450 quid return from London to Lima. So there you go.
Really?
Yeah, well, and I wonder, comparatively at the time, I wonder how much it would have cost for all the various stages of boat travel back in the day and so on. But sorry, it's just as a distraction that I found that dead interesting. Yeah. Sorry, I'm getting distracted.
I have a recollection in my mind that it was our tickets were 485.
Yeah, well, yeah.
A taxman likes to remember those kind of things.
Basically, you're right that a huge change happened in the 1970s going through to the 1980s, that it became possible for your average person, if they were so inclined, to go on a sort of Himalayan expedition in a 4-week period and climb a 6,500, 7,000 meter peak in that period.
Yeah, brilliant. And then the next question, I suppose, that we've got for you is just absolutely fantastic. And during the winter of 1987, you became the first and possibly only climber to claim a first ascent of an ice climb in the city of London. And does that rate as your most bizarre belay, I guess?
Probably yes is the answer to that. The belay in question was a parking meter. And Mike Morrison, who was one of my main climbing partners, a good friend of mine at the time, and he had driven down from Manchester specially for this, and he belayed himself to a parking meter while I climbed up this frozen drain pipe. It was just the perfect frozen drain pipe climb, because there were 3 parallel drain pipes, and the ice from a leaking toilet outflow actually, but it completely encased 2 of the drain pipes, and the 3rd drain pipe was free enough to just thread slings around the drain pipe support brackets.
Right,
so it was relatively well protected as long as the drain pipe stayed in place.
Yeah, exactly. As long as it didn't give. Yeah, brilliant.
Is this good old Victorian engineering?
Yeah. Cast iron pipes.
Good, strong Victorian engineering.
And I mean, yeah, obviously, given earlier conversation, this lends itself to what were you wearing? You know, you weren't in flares and crampons. I get it. By this was the late 80s, not the 70s. You don't need to. You know, were you in technical kit by this stage?
There were no flares, no. But
Yeah.
I remember that I did wear my rucksack, because my ice axes were actually attached to my rucksack in those days. And I can remember passers-by asking odd questions about why I was wearing a rucksack to climb this drain pipe.
Brilliant. You don't remember the brand of the rucksack, do you? I don't know where. Yeah. Don't
I
remember who it was
do.
made by.
It was an old outward bound rucksack with a leather trim around the pockets.
Oh,
Right.
fantastic.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wait, that's actually likely to be originally made by Carrymore. Yeah.
It probably was.
Yeah.
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 And it got nicked. It got stolen from my
Oh,
car. Yeah, my car
no.
was stolen in London.
Yeah.
And there was a bit of ice climbing kit in the back of the car, and the only thing that they stole, because my car was found after a bit, was the rucksack that was in it, and the
Brilliant.
chalk and rust covered ice climbing kit that I'd used down at Dover.
Oh.
What a weird thing to steal from somebody's car in central London.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Mm.
Oh, that's that's really bizarre. But yeah, we just spoke with Mike Parsons from Carrymore in the previous episode, and that particular rucksack, he made a number of rucksacks for Outward Bound in conjunction. I think it was due to an introduction by Frank Davies, who founded the Climbers Shop in Ambleside. So it's a very small world.
And particularly was at the not that long ago. At this time it was a very, very small world, wasn't it, when like we said before, the emergence of the continued emergence of mountaineering, climbing as a sport, really, there was a few key figures in that, weren't there? And then there was also, you right in saying there was another unexpected appearance on BBC. Was that linked to the drain pipes as well? We're getting that right? No.
No,
Looking very confused, and maybe I get my timings wrong. Cathy, a bit,
yeah.
Was there a discussion? I think maybe the press did turn up, but the ice had melted by that point or something. They were too late.
That was the police turned up. We didn't appear on television. Yes, that became all very awkward.
Should we move on?
Almost arrest.
Dicing with the law again.
I think it's fair to say that the end result was very unfortunate for Mike Morrison, who'd driven all the way down from Manchester, and the police stopped him climbing the ice fall, the drain pipe. It was me, Mike, and a chap called Chris Watts. And I did it, Chris Watts did it, and then the police stepped in and said that they would prosecute us for something or the other if Mike Morrison climbed it. And so we decided that maybe it was best to put our tails between our legs and sleek off.
Off your skulk, yeah.
Time for a pint.
Right, yeah.
But we did make the front page, or the back page of the Daily Telegraph. Yeah, so we weren't actually on the television, but we did make the broadsheet newspapers.
Okay, brilliant, yeah.
But the management of St Pancras Station were really not very friendly, and they must have asked the fire brigade to remove the icicle, and the fire brigade appeared overnight and removed it. Because I remember Victor Saunders was so upset that he was unable to do it. It gave me great pleasure telling him that it was no longer there.
Oh, brilliant. We talked earlier about climbing alpine style in the Himalayas, and throughout your career you've achieved a succession of very, very difficult ascents in extremely remote locations, and in a small group using minimal equipment. Have you ever had a situation where you felt you've gone too minimalist?
Maybe the one where I most felt that was when I was climbing with Dave Turnbull, who was the CEO of the BMC at the time, and we were on a mountain called Mugu Chuli in West Nepal. And it was my fault, really. I suggested that we did the route on half rations because I thought we had enough extra blubber around us, and also, it would be lighter, you wouldn't have to carry so much food. And that was all very nice until Dave became quite ill with a throat problem. And more significantly, we got caught in bad weather, and it all started to take much longer than we had expected. And so we ended up on the summit area, having run out of food and feeling rather hungry, and feeling that maybe we didn't have enough blubber around our waist after all. So I think I can remember lying there saying, I wish we'd brought more food. And it was entirely my fault.
Whose bright idea was that? Yeah. I've been in a similar position before. Yeah. Somebody's great idea.
I think if you asked me to pick a time when we've gone too minimalist, that would be it.
There was also a rather humorous story in one of your books, I can't remember which one it was, about a climb on the Old Man of Hoy, and for some reason you ended up abseiling, I think, without clothes.
Oh no, that was it. I was on the Old Man of Hoy last week actually with my
really?
son. But
clothes.
But abseiling without clothes. Now that was the Needle on Hoy,
right,
which is a proper sea stack, because of course, remember, the Old Man of Hoy is not surrounded by water, so you can't really call it a sea stack. Whereas the Needle, which is at the other end of the island, is much more adventurous. And there, you do have to abseil into the sea, tie 2 ropes together actually to get down to the sea level, and then swim across in the rather cold and usually not very calm Pentland Firth to get across to the stack, which is then quite challenging to climb as well. So that was a very memorable trip.
Chilly.
Well, it was a nice day, so chilly in the water, but you soon warmed up once you got out of the water.
Was there company in the water? I think you might have written about a seal.
Well, that's true. Yes, there were quite a lot of seals about, and of course they're very inquisitive. And it's amazing how exposed you can feel when you have no clothes on, and you're not a very good swimmer anyway, and a seal pops up in front of you, like literally sort of 5 or 6 feet in front of me. Then gives you a good look in the eye and then disappears under the water. There's a sort of natural tendency to sort of try and cover everything up and wonder where this creature that is clearly a lot more relaxed in the water than I was has gone. But anyway, it was a very friendly seal and no damage was done.
Excellent. Yeah, I think the other sort of standout story with the going minimalist for me, and this for me was climbing genius on the part of Pat Littlejohn, because I hadn't heard of anything remotely like this before, but I think it was on Toichi, and the retrieval ice screw belays. That was, my jaw was open reading that. I was like, how can you even do that? That's amazing.
Oh, they were very much a thing before a Balakoff threads came in. Nowadays we'd use a system whereby you drill holes in the ice and then thread a sling through the drilled holes. But no, retrievable ice screws were. I'd never used them before, but Pat is a guide and was very clued up on these things, and it seemed to involve wrapping a prusik loop around the ice screw in such a way that when you pulled the rope, when you pulled it down, it would twist around the ice screw and unscrew the ice screw, which would miraculously come down after you. And we did that 2 or 3 times in a row, I remember. So it was, full marks to Mr. Littlejohn. It was a good effort.
Absolutely superb. This next question, it does center around 2 words, torture tube, and this, I genuinely, you do put a diagram in your book of this, and when I looked at it, I genuinely thought I was looking at a diagram from a childbirthing manual, because it shouldn't happen in nature with adults. I think you describe it as a 50 centimeter diameter frictionless tube in hard ice, and you got into your sleeping bag and slid in. You're climbing with Pat Littlejohn on this one as well, in Toichi, and he put in the stove and the boots and then got in afterwards, but the rucksack stayed outside and the spindrift blew in, and I mean it just sounded awful. How did you?
It was worse than that, actually. No, that was without doubt the worst bivouac I've ever had. I mean, basically, yes. It was a fairly unique feature in that I can't imagine quite how it had formed, but the ground where we were was very steep, and it was snowing when we were looking for somewhere to spend the night. And in a sort of ice patch was this tube, as you described. It must have been caused by the wind and by a spindrift blowing down the face in a particular way. I can't really explain how it formed, but yeah, it went down at about 45 degrees, and then it leveled out at the bottom. And I slid down and started to get in my sleeping bag. And then Pat threw the stove and various other bits and pieces down on top of me as I struggled, because it was very constricted at the bottom. And then Pat hung himself in the sort of 45-degree section of the tube. But then the wind must have changed and the spindrift started to pour in. And, one of the worst things you can do when you're 4 or 5 days out on a really steep face is get your sleeping bag full of snow, because it will just melt and, it's probably your trip's over. So I had to get out of my sleeping bag and pack it away.
Oh, no.
And then the spindrift by this time had covered up the stove, and I think it was Pat's boots at the bottom of it. And it really did develop into a bit of a nightmare. And Pat managed to get the tent fabric over his head, which once he'd done that sort of blocked out quite a bit of the spindrift coming in, but it didn't really help that much, and it was a memorable night, let's say. Yeah.
Wow. Not much sleep going on that night then. Yeah, just a lot of shivering.
There wasn't.
Yeah.
I remember Pat at one point saying, look, I've just got to have a brew, I'm really cold and I absolutely need something to drink. And me just thinking, you must be joking. But it was clearly a good thing to do. But there were all these tassels, the hanging down from the tent fabric. And I was struggling at the bottom.
This fireball,
stove, and that's right. The chances of catching the whole show alight were pretty high, which would not have added to interest. Well, it would have added to interest, but it would have made it even more memorable, I suppose. But we were successful. We did actually get a cup of tea out of it.
Wow.
And the next morning was nice weather, and on we went.
You carried on. Wow.
Fantastic. Yeah.
Amazing. So, I mean, I've got to ask, what temperature rating of sleeping bag works in that kind of scenario?
Well, they're rated down to about -20, I think, something like that. Is it -30?
And what do you do with your sleeping bag when you get home after that kind of trip? Do you launder it? Do you bin it? Do you
set fire to it? Yeah.
No, you pack it away, ready for next time.
Yeah.
Now, I'm assuming there were a lack of pillows on that particular bivvy, because your evident incredulity at Dave Turnbull's head comfort on Mugo Chili was, I mean, I had a laugh out loud moment at that reading that bit, and but that expedition was actually the one where Berghaus had incorporated hydrophobic down into their clothing and their sleeping bags for the first time. So I'm assuming from what you just described, which is the ideal scenario for hydrophobic down, it made a big difference to your trips.
Oh, absolutely. And it was a great advertisement for hydrophobic down, that trip, because I'd asked Berghaus if they could design a really warm down jacket. And they duly did. This wonderful jacket arrived and I wore it. And we had a bit of a bad night, nothing like the torture tube, but I ended up getting quite a bit of snow in my sleeping bag, and also in my jacket. And and as down does when it gets wet, it completely lost its loft. And in the morning, my sleeping bag had seriously cricket ball sized lumps of ice in it. And as the day, and I had it hanging out of my rucksack to try and dry them out or whatever, completely unsuccessful. But during the day, the down jacket just completely recovered.
Wow.
And I just could not understand why. And it was only afterwards that Berghaus told me that they'd filled it with what was experimental hydrophobic down at that point. So you can imagine that hydrophobic down has made
Wow.
a big difference. Yeah.
Well, a life-saving difference, I guess, in a lot of cases as well, hasn't it, on all sorts of levels?
Potentially, yes.
Yeah.
I remember on that trip, the cricket ball sized lumps of ice never did come out, and I spent the rest of the climb wondering whether I should just take a knife to my sleeping bag and just cut them out,
Chop them out.
because they were just a waste of time. Yeah. And yet my down jacket was wonderful, cozy, fantastic. Yeah.
No, amazing. I think I'll probably just explain for the benefit of listeners who are unfamiliar with the term hydrophobic. It means that the down is treated with a water-hating chemical, or often they're water-based. They can be a water-based chemical, and it means that the down doesn't soak up or absorb that moisture, whether it's from condensation, whether it's from melted snow, or whether it's from condensed breath as well. But a lot of people, when they come in the shop, they say, well, surely you've never seen a wet or frozen duckling. why do we need to add the chemicals to the down to bring back that sort of hydrophobic that's there naturally? And of course it's to make the feathers hyperallergenic. They have to get washed, and that strips the oils that are then kind of synthetically put back in to create that hydrophobic down just that case in point, the sleeping bag never recovered and the jacket did. That's fantastic.
We did do a podcast on down,
Oh,
didn't
we
we?
did.
At one part,
We did,
with
with
Dr.
Dr.
Down. Yeah, we don't. No, sorry,
Yeah.
that was it. I just thought I dreamt it for a minute then, thinking about when we've talked about we wanted to speak to Dr. Down. Yeah, that was fascinating, wasn't it? Yeah, actually talking to the experts in about how down works and
Down
lofting and so on.
level,
Yeah.
pretty,
it was mind blowing, wasn't it? But dead interesting to have your experience, Mick. Then about how that worked for you.
Yeah, so I guess moving away from technical climbing equipment, but in many ways sort of equally as critical, a lot of more senior climbers, myself included, wear glasses and contact lenses, and we all know they're liable to fog up in a warm kitchen, let alone at altitude, in a snow hole or in a crevasse. How do you cope with those in extreme environments?
I've never found them to be a problem, to be
No?
honest, apart from the fact that you have to carry them.
Yeah.
But I always think back to very, very early days, and I was doing the north face of the Matterhorn, climbing the Alps, and I'd left my contact lenses in the lid of my sack while we were bivouacking, and come the morning, they're just frozen solid. And it was amazing. I just put the block of ice in my mouth, melted it out, put the contact lens in, absolutely no problem. I mean, I'm sure opticians would
they'll be cringing as
hold
they
their
listen.
head in their hands, but I've never really had a problem at all.
Yeah.
I carry the contact lenses in the lid of my sack. If I remember, I pop a couple into a chest pocket overnight so that they don't freeze. But even if they do, I don't lose any sleep over it, and it's really not been a problem for me.
Yeah. Oh, super. I'm kind of at that stage now where if I get the map there, that's it. I've got to have my mate hold the map.
Well, one in, one out is the answer. That works remarkably well. And I would frequently, because I'm short-sighted, so I need one in so that I can actually see distance, and one with no lens in so that I can actually see the settings on the back of the camera or close up or something like that.
Perfect. We discovered my walking pal and I that she's actually short. She can read close up, so she was on the map and I was on the long distance landform spotting because I can see for miles. That worked very well.
The perfect partnership.
Yeah, brilliant.
So you've been sponsored by Berghaus for many years, Mick, and fairly recently you had cancer and you've recovered, thank goodness, and
so.
it hasn't held you back. You've obviously been out doing some fantastic trips since, and you've recently started working with Berghaus Adapts, and we spoke with them at Kendal Mountain Festival, and it was absolutely fascinating.
It was
chat with
fascinating,
Alice.
wasn't it? Yeah, absolutely
Yeah,
brilliant, the work
really
that's going on.
was. Yeah, so they're obviously working with you now to design clothing for your next expedition and trip. Can you just explain a little bit about what that involves and how that's going to work for you moving forward?
Yeah. I suppose, firstly, the issues that I'm left with, which I need adapted clothing for, if you like,
Yeah.
are that well, basically my anus and rectum were removed, and they had to fold or do plastic surgery on my buttocks and fold lots of skin in, and that means that I have virtually no padding left in my buttocks.
Okay.
Which, sitting down on an uncomfortable bivouac, is excruciatingly uncomfortable. And so what we're working on at the moment is trousers which have padding, separate padding, amounts of padding in each buttock.
Right.
Because just putting a piece of foam or something across the back of the trousers doesn't really work that well. Really, because my bottom is just very, very sensitive. Just a bit of extra pressure by sticking something inside the trousers, which makes it a bit tighter across the hips, just makes it really, really uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And so we're working on getting just the right amount of padding at just the right level in each buttock, and to go down to just above the knee, so that on a sitting bivouac you can actually use the padding to sort of take the strain as such. So that's the main thing that we're working on. And the first prototype should be ready soon for me to check that. And that's what we're out to West Nepal in September. And that will be a pretty key item of equipment for me, because sitting bivouacs, since the operation, have been excruciatingly uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to trying that a lot. Excuse me. The other thing is nothing to do with my cancer, but I suffer from Raynaud's syndrome on my fingers.
Yeah.
And again, the tension within the mittens that I wear, I've always worn large mittens, suffer from cold hands. If they're just a little bit too tight, excuse me, or a little bit too loose, it really makes a big difference for me. And so again, they're producing a pair of mittens that are absolutely just the right specifications for me, but also have little very thin pockets inside on the palm side of the inner mitten, so that I can put a hand warmer in there. And so the pockets will slope towards the toe, the end, the finger end of the mitt, so that if I hang the mitts upside down on a stance while I'm belaying or something like that, or doing something that needs fine work, then the hand warmer doesn't fall out, because those hand warmers and a combination of getting it just right in my hands is really important. So we're working on that as well. And I have a pair of Berghaus mitts actually from many years ago that they made up for me that are just right. So we're working to improve that even more.
Oh, super. Yeah. So building on that kit.
Yeah, and they've been fantastic in that way. So we're looking forward to a perfect kit for the imperfect man.
Well, I guess it was really interesting, like Cathy said, talking to Alice at Kendal Mountain Festival about the Berghaus Adapts program, for want of a better phrase, and the work that's going on there to encourage more people to get out and about and have kit which suits particular bodies, whatever, however you are, and however we are, I guess. It was really interesting, and like you say, there's so much difference depending on your ability, and whatever's gone on physically for you historically, so it was, because there was a load, which it was saying they were working with somebody who had
sort of hand loops on trousers to help lift legs where there's disability or lack of movement. And so I guess it's really addressing individual need, isn't it? It's not necessarily something they're going to be able to ramp out commercially, but I think just being able to, or enabling folk to carry on after, whether it's an illness or whether it's an accident or a long-term disability, and maintaining so others can see that, you know, life's not over. There's a large slice of it still to be enjoyed.
Well, very much so. And I mean, it's a service really that enables people to get outdoors and enjoy the outdoors when maybe they wouldn't have been able to before, or at least to make it a safer and a more pleasant experience. And yeah, it's incredible how very small adjustments can make a very, very big difference to people.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic. Mick, it's been an absolute pleasure to talk with you. Thank you again for your time, and the big thank you to your sponsor Berghaus for making this chat possible as well, because it's been absolutely super. And I hope we bump into you either at the Mountain Festival or out and about. We've got links in our show notes to the Berghaus Adapts programme, and there'll be links in there to your 3 books as well, Mick, which I very much recommend. And we have all the books available at our shop, so you can go online to our website, which is www.climbers-shop.com. And if you're planning an expedition or an adventure for whatever level you love, getting out into the outdoors, there's a wealth of free information at our sister website, the Joe Brown Outdoor Academy, and that is available at www.joebrownoutdooracademy.com.